Hey, lovely people. It's Venia here from the lounge. Today is Friday, December the 5th. I feel like I've missed you guys. No, that sounds weird, but it's the truth. I am feeling tons better. I was actually feeling better, let's see, Wednesday. But yesterday, I got such a burst of can do. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. I accomplished so much stuff. It's amazing how much Mercury being retrograde, along with, remember, Saturn being retrograde, can slow you down. Um, because now that both of those are out of retrograde, my can do it's taken off quite a bit. I got so much accomplished yesterday. So, but here I am, um, and I've got so much to talk about, a lot to talk about today. And this is probably going to be a longer video, but I wanted to read this funny, hilarious. This struck me as just hilarious. Um, there was a woman. She broke into a home. She pet the family cat. She made a sandwich. She cleaned up. She did the dishes. She vacuumed and then left. Um, and there was a woman, and the woman was actually caught, unfortunately. But there was a woman that put out a notice. Wow, I hope she doesn't show up at my apartment at 242 Main Street before Christmas. Um, I thought that was hilarious. If the woman's doing all that, she can break into all our houses, right? Um, okay, so let's see. What should we start with first? Let's go over some of the stuff that happened on December the 2nd, because that was um, the most recent date that I was given, and I gave you guys as something major occurring on that date. Okay, so let's cover that stuff first before we get into the other juicy kind of stuff. December the 2nd, the election, Tennessee election. Okay, so Afton Bain did not win. However, what did I tell you? Whether she won or lost, it would still be a win. And it was. She not only outperformed in this deep red district, um, amazingly well. Okay, um, remember that was some district that Don the Con won by 22 points. She only lost it by 9 points. Okay, and every single district. I'm sorry. Every single area in that district was over 8 points, um, in Dem's favor. Okay, so Tennessee, the reddest of all districts, of all states in the country, has a serious problem. Now, what I didn't know the other day, because remember I told you guys that Republicans would do their little shenanigans and stuff like that. What I didn't know when I stated that was that Mike Johnson went there the day before the election and did this virtual town hall with the president there. Okay, he went there to campaign for the other guy that won. Did this virtual town hall with the president, and the president apparently promised them something, for that district. Of course, he was lying. He's not going to come through with whatever he promised them. Who even cares? But um, they still had nowhere near the numbers that they thought they would. So the problem is, like one of the Republican reps told a CNN reporter, is that if they lost, I mean, if they won by just 9 points, that's well within the margin of flipping during a midterm election. Because, of course, the off elections, far less people show up. But during the midterms and presidential elections, the turnout is much greater, right? And so Republicans are in deep trouble because that's a ruby, ruby, ruby red district. All right. So Afton Baines showed that a true progressive can win. Um, Mamdani did it, right? And she is also a true progressive. And she cut very deep into deep red territory. Republicans are in deep trouble. And that's why I've told you guys a while ago, don't worry about these dumb redistricting of these red states, because if the actual Republicans that were redistricted vote for Democrats, it doesn't matter. You can slice and dice that district all you want. It doesn't matter if they're voting blue. Okay? I understand that Texas, the Supreme Court just allowed Texas to go through with their um, well, what they did was they they upheld it for now. Okay, upheld their redistricting for now. But remember, just remember this: the problem that they found out after they redistricted um, in Texas, right, was they created several purple areas. Those are areas that can and most likely will flip to blue. Okay, so they're kind of stuck with these maps right now, and I guarantee you, those Latinos that are in those districts are not going to be anxiously or excitedly trying to vote for Republicans. Okay. Always remember, divine love has the very last word in everything. It just does. That's just the way it is. That's the reality of things. And you can best believe, if divine love allows something that seems bad or not good to our view to so called happen, the perfection of it is somewhere down the line that you can't even see. Okay? Trust and believe that, because it's a fact and it's true. You can't, I can't, no one can really see the full picture. No one can see down the line. But trust and believe that if something appears bad, okay, if something looks bad, that's a temporary snapshot. It is not the whole picture. Okay? Just try to remember that. Whether it's for this national stuff that's going on or your personal stuff that's going on. Okay? So, by the way, I have been telling you guys for I don't know how long. The president looks, not only looks, but is very sick, and his life force, was has been fading, right? And when I say he is literally holding on by a thread, um, I'm not exaggerating, and a thread might be an exaggeration. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to expound on that. Yeah. So just remember wheelchair, um, and other things that I've talked about, um, in regards to him, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. So December 2nd, Roswell, Georgia, the mayoral race, okay, was flipped, to a Democrat. She won. Um, a 20-year-old Democrat, Gen Zer, was elected to the Georgia State House. Extremely progressive, elected in Georgia to the State House. Let's see. Justin Crosby, Democrat, flipped the newly districted 22nd House in Mississippi. Okay? Flip that. Mississippi. Also on the second, the Admiral Frank Bradley, he was ordered to testify, on the boat strike on the second, which ordered ordered on the second to testify Thursday, which was yesterday. Um, he basically kind of, you know, defended Hexeth, sort of. But the whole interesting thing about that was it really doesn't even matter what he says. There is now a bipartisan effort by both Republicans and Democrats to impeach Hegseth. And I think it's hilarious that my very last video, the one I did, I believe, on Monday, I brought up Hegseth and how he wasn't going to be around for too much longer. And all of a sudden this week, you've got a bipartisan effort to impeach him. I have to check on whether they actually, bought those impeachment articles yet, made them official. I know that they were drafting them. Um, but anyway, the fact is there is a bipartisan effort to get rid of Hegseth, okay, for his allegedly illegal actions, that he's, doing. So that's going to be, even more interesting. Okay, a beautiful snapback happened, and I've been talking about, I was warned about crypto back in December of last year. I know nothing about crypto, I know nothing about the stock market. I don't invest in either personally. Um, but I was given, information to relay to you guys about the crypto market and or currency, to pull out of it, to divest of it, because it was just going to not do well at this period of time or any time in the near future, and that has proved to be true. It's been a roller coaster, and then it's been a flatlined and all this kind of stuff. Well, Melania's memcoin, it tanked. It's now worthless. Okay, millions were lost. People that invested in it lost just an unbelievable amount of money. Okay, um, and that's going to hold true for anything that is connected with this, administration and their crypto schemes, etc. But most of you are pretty smart. At least the ones that listen to this channel are pretty smart. You've gotten out already. And I do remember back a while ago, a lot of you said that you jumped out and, saved yourself a ton of money. So good for you on listening. Um, let's see. Republicans are now openly voicing their disdain, dislike, desire to get rid of Mike Johnson. The latest now is Elise Stefanik. There's another. So now there's three women. There's MTJ, Marjorie, Nancy Mace, and Elise, who have come out and openly said he's got to go. He's got to go. And I'm so sure there are other um, members of Congress that are dissatisfied with him, but these three are vocal now. They're vocal. They're public about their disdain for him, and he is a mouthpiece, a complete mouthpiece for the president, as you all know, and he matches Don the Con in his lies, his exaggeration of the truth. He's a chameleon completely. I don't even watch. I can't even watch him anymore, just because everything he says is just a either deflection, a complete lie, just totally. It's disgusting. This is a person that has sacrificed their integrity, 100% behind one person. Okay, and when you do that, you disconnect yourself from, I'll just say, excuse me, the basic spiritual energy. And what do I mean by that? Basic spiritual energy is that flow that is continuously flowing in a harmonious way, okay? When you sacrifice your integrity, you get yourself off of that train, that flowing train of energy, okay? And you just become, it's chaotic. What you get, what it does to not only your life, but what it does to your happiness, your lack of happiness, your mental state, etc. It's chaotic. You subject yourself to the most chaotic form of energy that's there. Okay? You're only riding the chaotic train. And it really affects you mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And, he will at some point suffer greatly, as all of those who have sacrificed their integrity, okay, for a person, for a man who is not worth, uh, uh, the penny that they just got rid of. Okay. Um, and what happens in that case is when you subject yourself to that chaotic energy, it gets so bad. Okay. It basically forces you to want a truer form of energy, a better form of energy, but it will sink you in order to get you to that point. It will sink you. It will almost destroy you. And so we've seen that time and time again with so many of those that have sacrificed completely uh, their their integrity to support this guy. And I could spend the rest of the day naming those who have suffered because of it. And if you think about this, there is a certain um, look and mental state, okay, that belongs to those who have ridden that chaotic train of energy. Think about it, right? You can tell, you can sense their lack of integrity. You can sense their ingenuousness, their they're rotten, and they all have that look, and it can eventually lead to a form of like insanity. But anyway, I don't know why I was told to inject that, but it's kind of important to hear because it's very true. There is a look, there is a certain mannerism, um, you know, by people that sacrifice their integrity, and not just following Don the Con, but just in general. You can tell, and a lot of you, a lot of us will either be repulsed by people like that, don't want to have anything to do with them. You'll see a lot of times babies just are frightened of them, or, you know, ugh, pets react to them like that. You know, um, we've all met them. We've all, sensed them. Okay, when you're when you are confronted with someone who has um, disconnected from true spiritual integrity, okay, you can sense it. You can sense it. Um, you react to it, maybe consciously or subconsciously, but you know. You just know. Always listen to that. It's important. Okay, moving on. Um, told you guys the um, cases against Comey and Letitia. It would be like Teflon with them. Nothing's going to stick to them. Comey's was already dismissed. Well, both of them were dismissed, and then charges were refiled against Letitia, and the grand jury refused to re-indict her. Um, yeah. Does this administration get tired of losing? And that's got to be a true slap in the face for Bondi. I mean, a true one. The grand jury won't even take it. They refuse to re indict her. Okay. So, good for her. You know, universe always has the last word. Okay. The Somalis. They were called garbage yesterday by Don the Con. That's funny in a not funny way. They are people too, just like I guess he is. Um, but the most interesting thing to me is that a large portion of them, um, came on and endorsed Don the Khan and held that huge press conference, got thousands of Somalis to vote for Don the Khan, and then they get called garbage. Okay, and the leader of the group that spoke out for Don the Khan, I don't know his name and really don't really care to. Um, he did an interview with CNN and he said, been a Republican for 25 years and, we supported Trump and, I got thousands, to vote for him, tens of thousands to vote for him and for him to call us garbage, and this and that. Was he blind? Was he deaf and blind? Don the Khan, one thing you can say about him, he hasn't changed. He's remained the same ignorant, racist, vile person from day one. Okay? You thought that, and this guy had, during this time when he was speaking and campaigning for Trump, he said, Dems left us and, we can't support Kamala and da, 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 we can't, vote Democrat. Okay, great. Well, Dems may have left you, but Republicans turned on you. Okay? My level of sympathy for doing something is wrong against yourself is zero. I have bottomless wells of compassion for people, but I'm also a realist, and I also understand how some facets of how the universe works. Okay, when you consciously make a choice, consciously, not subconsciously or unknowingly, but when you consciously make a choice, knowing it's wrong, and yet still barreling through with it, there's a snapback. So, for those Somalians that consciously made that choice to vote against their best interest, I have no compassion for that. None is needed. None is required. I have compassion for those that are mixed up in this, that didn't support him, but are still swept up in this, what he's doing to the community. I do have compassion for them. But it's called tough love. Tough love. I've had to use tough love against myself when I've made bad choices, knowing they were not good choices. Knowing. And I've done a few of those. We all have. And then when the snapback comes, you just gotta gotta take this one. I can't blame this person. I can't blame that person. I chose this. And it's a heavy pill to swallow. It truly is. But gotta do it. The problem is, or rather, the conundrum is, okay, when you make that choice, right, and the snapback comes, and you honestly admit, you know what, I effed up and I got to take it. I do have compassion for that. I do. I have compassion for that. This guy, during this CNN interview, is still basically unrepentant. He says he's still going to vote Republican, and he's very still supportive of Don the Khan's policies. Huh? What? Okay, let's get off that one. Anyway, all right. There was a provision in the National Defense Authorization Act. Okay. It's a bipartisan bill that they're trying to approve. Okay. Bipartisan now. And one of the provisions in it is IVF protections for military members. Okay. It has bipartisan support. Mike Johnson is trying to take it out of this bill. And why? Because he is doing the bidding of the president and the president's people around him. Okay? Not doing what's best for constituents or the military, etc., but doing it because the president wants him to. Okay? So, back to what I was saying about him. I don't need to repeat all that. Okay, I want to talk real quick about something that this administration is allowing. Um, Don the Khan is now allowing the forever chemicals, which were banned, and I believe they were banned during the Biden administration early on. Um, Don the Khan is now allowing them to be introduced back into farming, so now they can be sprayed on fruits, vegetables, anything basically growing, potatoes, you name it. Okay. I would like to suggest that whenever you can, buy organic. Okay. Buy organic vegetables, fruit, anything that can be grown, just buy organic. Yes, it might be a little bit more, but number one, do it for your health. Okay. These chemicals, they get into, the soil and these farming products, and then eventually into your system, and they don't leave. Okay. And that's the main reason. Do it for your health. But also, the more organic you buy, um, it sends a message. It really does. It sends a message. Eventually, they will get it. Okay, people prefer organic. Okay. Um, you know, I have even gotten to the point where I don't even buy my pasta from anywhere that is produced in the United or made in the United States. Okay. My pasta has to say imported from typically Italy. Okay. And the reason is because they don't spray their, you know, crops with dangerous chemicals. As a matter of fact, most of the chemicals allowed here are banned in the EU. Okay, so if you can get, like your egg noodles from Germany, do it. Your pastas from Italy, do it. Your whatevers from these other countries that have banned these chemicals. And not just forever chemicals, they've banned a lot of chemicals that we've been using, you know, just as a standard. A lot of stuff. So that's just, a loving suggestion to you guys. Because until we can get, Republicans out and their greed, I know that, a lot of um, the EPA, like, Don the Khan just signed that executive order gutting emissions from regulating emissions, okay, from cars. And he got on TV and bragged about it. Yeah, people were begging me to do this. No, it wasn't people, it was the corporations begging you. Okay? Um, so now, those regulations are basically, they've been gutted seriously. So now these cars can go back to producing these emissions that are just dangerous, you know? So, anyway, Republicans they don't care about the environment, they don't care about your health. They've proven it over and over and over again. Okay? Take responsibility for some of that when you can. All right? Give them the virtual middle finger when you can. All right? Don't buy from companies that are polluting your food. Or I have, and thanks to Republicans, I have gotten extremely conscious about my what I intake, and digest, and buy, and all of that. I'm very conscious of that stuff now, very much so. All right, so one of the last things I wanted to talk about was, um, it's kind of in two parts, okay? There is a viral video on TikTok. I'm sure it's on YouTube. But the one on TikTok is, let's see. Of course, hang on just a second. Okay, found it. Sorry about that. Um, there's a guy, I'm sure if you did a search, you'd find it. But the one I saw was Mark Hanala, Hanalla. This is on TikTok. It's Mark Hanala slash You Won't Believe It. But then after that, I saw many other videos, the same video, going viral on TikTok. There was a black guy that started harassing a white guy. And he started saying, what are you looking at? What are you smiling at? Or whatever he's saying to the guy. And another black guy steps in and curses the black guy out. I mean, gave it to him full force. Okay? But what drew me was I could sense the spiritual energy behind this guy, this black guy cursing out this other black guy, um, over harassing and almost threatening a white guy. Apparently, the white guy is just sitting there, minding his own business, not bothering anyone, okay? And the black guy that's standing up by the doors just starts, harassing him, then threatening him, and whatever he's doing. And the other black guy steps up in the white guy's defense. And the beauty of that is there was no color involved, right? No race involved as far as the the power the power of the black guy who is cursing out the other black guy, right? There was such spiritual energy in his voice. I don't care what word he's using, some cuss words now. So if you look it up, be prepared. He's cussing and he's using some words, okay? But the spiritual strength and energy behind what he's saying is so strong. And it's such a beautiful thing. And there's such a righteousness to it. And there's the strength in what he's saying. And he's not being nasty. He's not being ugly. He's not being menacing. There's a spiritual strength in what he's doing, how he's doing it, and saying. Okay? And the beauty of it is there's so many people on that train. Okay? And you could just see that energy going out and affecting them all. Okay? In the right way. In other words, they may not have said anything and they may not have reacted, but the show of strength from this man defending someone who is being verbally attacked is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And that is how sometimes Spirit will step in and empower a person who has integrity, like this guy does. This man, you want to know what integrity looks like? It's this guy. That is spiritual integrity. And they will step in and empower the situation and the person in such a way that it is just, it's beyond amazing. I remember years ago, I used to take the subway to work. I stopped doing it after a while because it was easier for me to take the train, the regional rail. But when I was started out, I was on the subway one day, but I wasn't riding with anyone. I was just by myself. There was other people and stuff. And this kid gets on a few stops after me, and you could tell he had a serious burn accident. Okay, his face was all scarred up, and he was very. You can just tell that he was just very self-conscious about how he looked, and just kind of mousy. About 13 or 14 years old, maybe 15 at the oldest, but he was a young kid. And these girls got on. There was a gang of them. It was about 6 or 7 of them. And they sat across from him. I was facing the kid, and then I was facing the girls when they got on, and I could see them. So they started talking amongst themselves, and then they started talking louder, and they were talking about this kid, and they were making fun of him. And I've told you guys before, I don't have any fear. The only thing I fear is a mouse. I am scared to death of mice. But anyway, and I'm only 5'1", and my husband always says, "Girl, you need to walk around with like a Uzi the way you talk." But anyway, um, they started teasing this kid, and I wasn't having it. And I didn't care if they beat me to a pulp. And I I forget exactly what I was telling them and saying to them, but my voice rose, and I let them know, leave him the F alone. And then I said a couple things to a couple of the girls, that I could tell pierced them. That was spirit empowering me. They left him alone. They did. They left him alone. They quieted themselves down, and they were a little rambunctious group. And like I said, they could have beat me to a pulp. They weren't small girls, but they left him alone. And he, they got off at a stop, like maybe a few stops after, before they got off, before he and I got off. And when they got off, I could just look at him. He was shaking. Poor thing was shaking. And I got up and I went over and I touched his shoulder and I said, I'm sorry. And he just said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he's shaking so bad. So he finally calmed himself down, and then I think I got off before him. But that was spirit empowering me. Okay. And it empowered me for them, for those girls. And that's what it does. That's how spirit works sometimes. Okay. I don't know if you guys remember, but long time ago, there was a viral post of a woman walking down the street, and I'm talking from memory, nothing I've seen recently, so I can't even give you a video or where it is, but there was a woman walking down the street, and there were like 3 or 4 guys. It was late at night, and she said she knew that she was going to be attacked. She just knew that these guys were going to get her, and she had nowhere to go, and you know uh, nowhere to run, and she couldn't escape, and she just kind of braced herself. She was going to be attacked, and instead these men walked right past her, and as they walked past her, and when they got behind her, she heard one of them say, "Man, did you see how big that motherfucker was with her?" And she was kind of like, what the hell are they talking about? She was by herself. She was literally by herself. But apparently, Spirit gave the impression on a physical level of a really big guy being with her. And it was enough to keep them guys moving. Okay? That's how spirit rolls. All right? So, if you get a chance, like I said, the guy's name is Mark Hanela on TikTok, or if you do, I'm sure if you do a search of man on subway getting cussed out or whatever, I don't know, you'll find it. Um, get you'll get a chance to see spiritual integrity and spiritual empowerment at work. Okay? And it interjects itself at times in very physical ways to show us various things in different ways. But I just love this one. I specifically love this one, and I'm gonna watch it again. I saved it. I favorited it, um, so that I could watch. This guy is empowered. He's empowered. All right, guys. So anyway, thanks for hanging in with me. Thanks for listening, and love to you all. May you see the love that is there. May you see how it sprouts, unfolds in your life, in whichever way it's doing it. All right? So take care, and I'll see you again soon. And I'm not going to be making no moves on my rebounder like that again. I've learned my lesson. All right, take care, guys. Thank you.